Hello and welcome back to Supernatural Lifeline Revelations. I'm your host, Prophetess TNT, Taryn Tarver, and we're throwing out this amazing lifeline. You know that your timeline can be someone else's lifeline, so make sure that you are sharing this live taping right now on all of your social medias because this is going to be one that you do not want to miss. Today, my guest is very, very special to me because he literally came on one of my lives. He was referred to me by one of my other guests, and she said he has amazing testimony. I went onto his social media, read about his story, and I said, I've got to get this young man on my show. It's Dr. Keith Marshall. Welcome.
Hello, how you doing?
Glad to have you.
Nice to meet you.
Now, Dr. Keith, amongst many other things, I wanted to talk about your testimony some before we get going, but you are the founder of a clinical outpatient and inpatient dedicated treatment center, and you're helping people all over the world. I love what I've seen from all the different avenues of administration, psychoeducation, the group, individual, psychotherapy, family therapy, education, motivational speaking, life skill education, substance abuse counseling, communications, so all these different skills that God has given you, but it took you a journey to get to this place before you started actually helping people and you became the doctor that you are today. And if you wouldn't mind, I would just love for you just to tell people about your overcoming testimony of how God brought you to this magnificent place. And if he can do it for you, they can do it for them too.
Oh, you better believe it. First and foremost, any success that I've had in my life is definitely far more his than it is mine. We need to start there. I need to thank you for even giving me a voice. I'm not even supposed to be alive. Then I need to acknowledge my wife. We've been married 26 years, September 5th.
We received.
She has been a rock in my life, even in my hardest moments. She would be on her knees praying at my bed.
Amen.
When I should have been dead or when I shouldn't have been here. I guess my journey started when I was I grew up in Philadelphia in the projects, across the street from the projects, and my mother was a nurse at the time, well, becoming a nurse. And what I learned about my life growing up is that, choices are very powerful. And I think what happened to me when my book comes out, it's called From Fear to Faith to Freedom. And what that simply means is that I had developed fear of people, places, and things.
Yes.
Faith was those actions that I realized that I was taking over time to kind of recreate my life with the power that God was putting in me. And the freedom was really from the bondage of self, not being afraid to be who I am,
right, when
I am who I am. So as a kid, I was internalizing a lot of the external world. I grew up around gangs. I was a part of, I was a young guy in one of the gangs on Haines Street, but I wasn't the gangbanger because sports took me out of that. Mm-hmm. There's a psychosocial stage called role identity versus role confusion. And I think because I could run, I could play football,
right,
it kind of took me and my brother, if you will, and distracted us from the things that were going on in the environment. Mm-hmm. So the environment wasn't the greatest environment to see, but also had a lot of abuses in my life. Mom was probably the rock. My dad, rest in peace, most often he let me down, but at the same time, he was a dad I honored and I loved. And then I had a stepfather that come in my life, and I think he had his own issues. Long story short, there was a lot of abuses in my life early on that as I was growing up, I didn't know it was going to create an image that I didn't even know. A lot of times when we internalize the world growing up, my master's degree and my bachelor's degree are in human development. And part of the reason when I went back to school, when I finally get there, was I wanted to know what happened to me. How did I develop this thinking that I needed this person to approve me, or I needed the validation of others, or I needed to really fit in, but I was uncomfortable with myself.
Yes.
My mother, worked hard while she was also being abused, a very strong woman, while she was finishing her nursing degree. So she was dealing with her stuff and then sending us to Catholic school, and I couldn't really identify with the Catholicism or the religion. Not to say that, not to down or tell somebody not to believe what they believe, but it was a dichotomy. I mean, there were opposite things going on in my life. I would hear things in church, and then I would go home and see something totally different.
Right.
And so I was a confused child.
Okay.
And when I say confused...
Many kids are.
Yeah, right.
They don't know it, but they are.
Yeah, and the story is really, we're all unique and we all individualize the world in a very unique way. Three people can grow up in the same household, and two can emerge in one way and another can go another way. And it really has nothing to do with sometimes just the environment. It's just the way as a unique individual we internalize the world. So long story short, I was able to get through high school, did some gang banging in high school. When I say gang, back in Philadelphia on Haynes Street, which is notorious if you look it up, we would really duke it out. And most often we would end up eating ice cream and popsicles at the end of the day after we were fighting each other or fighting some of the other guys in the other neighborhood. But sports kind of took me on a track, and then I wanted to play in the NFL. I really loved football, but I didn't have a father pushing me. I didn't have anybody, like my kids today, I've gone to every one of the games. I'm always there, and I can't see how anybody wouldn't want to do that. And I really wanted somebody on the sidelines to get me. So a tragedy happened to me in my senior year. I was pretty popular in high school. Like I said, the role identity piece wasn't significant to me in terms of fitting in because me and my brother were pretty popular. Mm-hmm. So I kind of felt a part of something. So the isolation didn't emerge yet. The feelings of inadequacy and the feelings of not feeling good enough or the attention seeking that I was looking for, it wasn't a necessary thing for me at the time, unbeknownst. I just simply was navigating life, playing sports. So I broke 3 bones in this leg in my senior year, and it broke my heart actually because I used to sleep with my football. I wanted to play football that bad. And it wasn't like because I needed the crowds. I just loved the game. When I found that I couldn't play ball anymore, it kind of bothered me. So when I graduated, I was a pretty good student in school. For some reason, it seemed like the girls would always acknowledge the guys who had the good grades. So my ego was working for me, I guess, at the time. I started getting good grades in school just because I wanted the attention. And it is what it is, right? And so when I got out of school, I was able to get into Temple University.
Okay.
Now, this is unreal because when I got on the campus of Temple University, now I felt insignificant. Here is this guy who's walking around high school, got my brother with me and our buddies with us. We like these big men on campus. We're not bullies, but we're just having a good time. And high school was some of the best years of my life. But now, in high school, I can remember after games, we'd go drink a 40, go smoke a little weed. Didn't have a profound effect, but it would mitigate or, get rid of some of the anxiety that might have been going on in my life because I was choked out every day pretty much by my stepfather to the point where I would fall out and then I would get beat down and then he would tell me to fight him, and if I didn't fight him back, he would beat me down. So every now and then I get a lucky blow in, he'd do it anyway. So I kind of grew up very hurt, angry, and afraid. So I get on the campus of Temple University, and I remember me and my friend, here I am, I graduated early, around 17. I graduated on an honor roll in high school. And, my mom had just became a nurse, so the socioeconomic setting didn't really change yet. The hood, the projects, I was all still embedded in that. Then she moved in my senior year, after my senior year, into when I went to Temple on my first semester. And that's when life just changed for me. There was a shift. Now I realize that because I was insignificant, now understanding at this age, I'm not thinking I'm insignificant. I got this don't you know who you think I am ego. I'm trying my best to pull off this, being someone that I'm really not. Because I need you to like me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I need you to accept me. So we ended up, as young kids, I'm making choices. We're going to nightclubs, 18 years old, 19 years old. I shouldn't be in no nightclubs. I had better, my grandmother prayed for us. I was saved at the time. Look, I had been baptized. I was covered in the blood. But, I was doing what flesh does. I was just running amok. I was this young teenager, full flight from reality, not recognizing the hurt that was going on inside of me. And I'm not saying that everybody who hurts is going to make the same decision. This is my story. So I can remember walking in a nightclub. We went to Serendipities. I will never forget that day. We walked in the bathroom of my friend I'm going to identify who he is. He says, hey, come on, man, let's try a little bit of this. And so he gives me a couple little snorts of cocaine. I walk out the bathroom. I feel like I'm Superman. I'm walking around the club. I'm getting in your face, her face, her face. You want to dance? You don't want to dance? I didn't care if she said no. The feelings of rejection, didn't care. The feelings of inadequacy went away. I don't know what happened to me.
Right.
But whatever it did, it gave me this false sense of power. That's the hook of the devil.
Yes.
And that's how insidious, if you will, and baffling and cunning that a drug can be. Someone might do a drug, get up and go home, and may have no effect, and then somebody can do it. But what it did for me was this. After exploring my life, it took away some feelings of inadequacy that I had been dealing with.
Right.
And then it set me on a trajectory in my life that took me to literal hell. And to bring the story down, the reality of it is I was able to, I walked in my sociology class and I could remember the cocaine was in the car. And at that very moment, intuitively, I knew that there was something going on with me and there's no way.
How long has it been from the time that you tried it in the bathroom to this point right then?
Okay,
how long did it take, or like, did you immediately feel like you needed it all the time, or was it some gradual?
Here's what would happen. My friend, I would say, hey, look, next week, let's go get a 50. You know, that's how we talk. You know, $50, let's go get a 50, let's get a 40, and let's go get the jam on. And we go do that. And we did that for a while. We thought we was having fun.
It was like a weekend thing.
Yeah.
It was a weekend, let's just go hang out, have fun. We're in college and do these little drugs and drink a little whatever.
That's it.
That was it, okay.
And I'm just trying to have fun. I'm not like, hey, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be a crackhead dope fiend.
Right.
I'm not thinking like that.
Yes.
I was an athlete. My brother Kenny, right now, he's been a state police for 30 years. My brother Kevin, 27 years, a firefighter. My mom just retired in nursing for almost 50 years. My father's a paramedic. That wasn't a part of my route.
This was not your plans.
Right, you know, I'm experimenting. I'm thinking I'm having fun, and truthfully, in the beginning, I thought I was.
Right.
It was giving me a false sense of confidence.
How long did it take for you to realize that there was actually a problem?
It was about 6 months.
And when did your family realize that was a problem?
Well, the family realized it was a problem probably about 2 years later. Because see, I had the gift of gab. I could clean up real good, and I fake people out, if you will, living a fake phony life. But I was living a fake phony life even before I started doing drugs. Because remember, drugs was only the symptom anyway. The problems were me, without me knowing that my problem with loving myself, my problem with having a self-talk that was telling me I'm okay, and being okay with myself. So after about 6 months of playing with it and messing with it in school, I remember in my sociology class, I had cocaine in the car. And I got up, and I intuitively at that time, I knew something was wrong, that I couldn't pull myself from the obsession that was going on in my mind. I sat in my car, I took a couple more hits, and I never went back. Now, I still had a job at the time. I was working at a housekeeping company. I became a manager. The housekeeping supervisor got sick, and I said, well, look, I could run the department. I was just that confident. So I took over, and here I am, 19, 20 years old, and a director of a housekeeping department of 15 people. I just was kind of like, I think sports just gave me that, that leadership thing. But I was trying to hide it and hide it. So long story short, over the years, I would get a job. I would lose a job. I met me and Lily been married 26 years, and that's it for me. She's mine, that's it. But the reality of it is, I could remember having insurance and understanding I was having a problem and I needed to go. So my first wife, she had insurance. She would fly me. It would fly me here and there. And instead of me going to treatment to get help, somebody told me one day with a bright idea, how about going to California to get some help in a nice rehab? I said, wow, Cali? Sure. Not thinking about treatment. I'm a legend in my own mind at the time. And so I go. The bottom line is this. The obsession became so overwhelming and so powerful. And I know people say, you're just weak. They can say whatever they want.
Right.
Because they don't know my life today.
Right.
I'm free today.
Right.
So we're gonna talk about that. I didn't want to be who I was, but it led me through over 25 drug programs. People say, well, you were that weak? No, God made me that strong because I kept fighting. I lived on the streets and the subways in Philadelphia because I was too ashamed for my family to see me in that condition. I lived on Skid Row down here. When I got to LA, because I knew I burned so many bridges back in Philadelphia, I didn't go back to Philadelphia. But the most important thing about the process was the protection. I had profound dreams that I'll talk about in my book, profound things that my wife knows about. I would wake up in the middle of the night and go back into a dream. I got shot in the head, point blank range. And the obsession was so powerful that the next day when my mom, and I was laying in a pool of blood, and when my wife came to the hospital, the next day I pulled the cords out of my, the IVs out of my arm and went to the dope man, and he touched me and said, here, man, and just gave me, that's how powerful the obsession was. I got stabbed 17 times. I lived behind dumpsters. I panhandled. And this went on for over 20-something years. See, my journey wasn't an overnight journey.
And I was reading that your ex told you that you were going to always...
She told me 30 years ago, she said, I'm not going to use her words, but she told me 30 years ago, you're not going to be anything but a crackhead, a dope fiend. You're never going to amount to nothing. You're never going to be anything. Well, let me get to the point where, I rebuked the enemy on that one.
How did the turnaround come about?
Right. So one night I was in my bed, and this is after all these years of living on the streets, in and out of rehab, in and out of jail, in and out of these. And this is when me and Lily, we had our little stuff going on because she was always forgiving me. I'm laying in my bed. Now, most people would have thought that I was hallucinating. But I'm begging God, please, please free me from this. And then I wanted to get on the floor, but I was too scared because I saw these demons that I had been seeing all my life.
Right.
And my book is going to be profile.
Yeah, and you read
it talks about it. So I mustered up the faith and I just hit the floor because I wanted to just get on my knees and say, God, look, please free me.
Free me.
Or kill me. See, the moment of surrender came because for the first time in my life, I was honest.
Yes.
I said, free me because I know I had no power to free myself. Let's keep it real. If I could have got my smoke on and had no problems, me and him wouldn't have been having no conversation. I said, free me or kill me. And he knew I meant it. Now, I found out later, your fight or flight responses, norepinephrine, epinephrine kick into your brain, is physiologically impossible to fall asleep. I fell asleep. But the real miracle was that I woke up in the morning and I found dope in the bathroom and pipe in the bathroom, and nothing told me to smoke the rest or do the rest. I threw it down the toilet. I went to my wife and I told her, I said, that's it. I'm going to get a job tomorrow, and that's it. I got up the next day. I went and got a job at a gym. In 3 months, first of all, I got my first paycheck. I couldn't understand why this isn't happening. So I started manufacturing the thoughts in my mind. There's no way I'm not thinking like this anymore. Nothing happened. 2 weeks later, I got another paycheck, and I said, this is pretty cool. I'm not feeling nothing no more. And so that scripture, who the Son sets free is free indeed. I said, wait a minute. I had a problem with addiction, but I'm free from addiction.
So literally what you're saying is when you cried out and you surrendered to God, he took, which I've seen it, the taste out of you. He removed the root out of you, that demon that was controlling you, that was behind it, that you had been seeing all along, was literally just removed.
That's right. For anybody looking in this camera and he can say whatever they want, it was something in me.
Yeah.
And when he put me to sleep, he pulled it out. And I know today he pulled it out because my life today doesn't make sense.
Now, I wish I should have had your wife come on. If I knew she was coming, I would have had her come on. At first, I'm sure she probably was like, okay, you're free.
She didn't believe it.
Because you had burned so many bridges. Now you had to walk it out. I heard this from Todd White. I don't know if you know who he is. Look him up on YouTube if you hadn't. Such a great testimony. But when he knew he was free, he knew he was free. He went to like one of the, it was similar to what you do. It's like the Teen Challenge Ministry Institute that actually has a very high recovery rate like you do with your institute and your treatment centers. And that's because they use the power of Jesus Christ. Right. And when he was free, he went back and his wife and his girlfriend at the time got married, right? Well, the parents, the father was so angry. Everybody, the family was like, he is a thief, he is a crackhead, he's this, he's that. And he was just like, he said he was not even offended because he knew he was delivered and he knew he had burned those bridges. And when you are totally delivered, you take ownership for your actions. It's not one of those people who's like, oh, stop talking about that. Don't talk about that or whatever. They're willing to take ownership for their actions. They're like, yep, thank God that God is good. He set me free. Thank God, yes, that used to be me. I sure did. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving. I'm going to, you get in this thing. That's why you're so free and you're able to talk about it because it's the person that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
That person died that day.
As a matter of fact, 3 months from then, I started a business called A New You Professional Fitness Trainer. Mm-hmm. Within 3 months, I had 60 clients. I would go to churches sometimes and speak about my testimony, and people would come to the altar. Somebody prompted me, go back to school. I said, what do you mean? They might bring some credibility. So here I'm a 40-year-old man. So what do you mean go back to school and do what, right?
Right.
So he said, just step in faith. Okay. And so I went to Glendale College. I applied for my first class, and Lily would help me study at night. Bottom line is I ended up graduating with my degree.
Lily, we're pretty self. We like Lily.
I graduated my associate degree. I got certified as an alcohol drug counselor. I was a full-time father, doing everything I needed to do to be my kids' support. And then I was able to also put my wife back through college with the money I was making as a professional trainer. The business was very successful.
Wow.
I had a 4.0. I graduated. I said, well, wait a minute. I think I can go further. So then I went on to Pacific Oaks, and I graduated Pacific Oaks with a bachelor's and a master's degree with specialization in early childhood education and human development. And then my ego worked again for me. I was getting my master's degree, and I saw these guys walking across the stage with these sashes, and I'm like, well, what are they? And he said, oh, those are elite. They're PhD students. So I want one of those. And I applied, and I went to the Chicago Professional School of Psychology, and I also graduated the top of my class with a 4.0 GPA.
How did it feel then to watch the Lord literally transform your life and to look back, and how did your family respond? Because it takes a while. Your wife can see that she had a difference at first. I'm sure by a month in, she was like, okay, I don't know if I could totally let my hair down, but I'm letting my hair down. And then by 3 months, she's probably like, okay. By 6 months, she's probably like, this is how we are, but she's probably still got a little caution. But family does not forgive as quickly as your wife can forgive. And so how long did it take for family and friends to realize, this dude is on this path, the Lord has transformed his life, he's changed forever, he's healed, he's delivered, he's set free? How long did that take?
I think the first time I believed it when I went home and my mom was hiding the jewelry, and I left a $100 bill in an envelope, and I said, go out to dinner, Mom, I love you. And then a year later, I got keys to everybody's house. I think it started because I've had 4 graduations with a cap and gown, and everybody had to come. And I know how I wanted to give up. I knew how I had to face overt and covert situations of racism, especially the higher you go in education, where people didn't want me to have it. I had been in tears in the middle of the night wanting to quit, but I knew I needed to leave a legacy for my children, because I did leave some children behind in terms of disruptions in relationship, but we have repaired.
Yes.
But the main thing that recovery taught me, one, is I had to forgive myself, okay? But I also had to go back and forgive I today walk a free man. A free man in the sense that there is no malice. I have nothing against Mom, nothing against that. I have forgiven everyone. There's no unforgiveness in me right now. And it's the freest feeling in the world.
Isn't it?
And so when I was able to get Dedicado Treatment Center, which is my treatment centers now, actually.
Awesome.
Might as well add 3, because I'm now starting also a nonprofit that's in process to help men coming from prison, to give them transitional housing. We're going to counsel them, give them life skills, and teach them how to get back in, stop beating themselves up because they made a mistake, and get back in the game of life.
Well, you're going to have to talk. That is just commendable. I'm so excited about that.
So, So, but Dedicado Treatment Center, I'm probably one African-American, by the grace of God, one African-American man in the country whose treatment center is accredited by the Joint Commission. You can look us up. We're all over Dedicado Treatment Center. We have more reviews in Southern California. And because we talk about excellence there, and because we want to see people get help. But this center, and by the grace of God and what he's done for life, has freed me financially.
Amen.
Helped me to put my kids through college.
Amen. How many kids do you have?
I got 14 children altogether.
Okay, that's a lot of kids, but that's wonderful.
Right.
You're really blessed.
Right. And they're all grown except for my daughter, who's going to be going to medical school.
Yeah.
They all have college degrees. There's been 3 children, though, I have to admit, that I didn't know until they got older because their mothers took them from me. They were different mothers.
Right.
I was promiscuous. I had a lot of stuff going on as a kid.
Yeah, happens.
I was making mistakes. You know, he hung himself on the cross for me, okay?
But it's so amazing because I love hearing these testimonies. I love knowing that they happen because it's all about restoration. You were on my live, and we only have like 90 seconds, but we were on my live just recently, and it was amazing how my parents, after 12 years of being divorced, just got remarried.
Right.
And then the next week, my daughter gets engaged.
Right.
And God is the God of restoration.
That's right.
He says, can these dry bones live? Said, only thou knowest.
Right.
Prophesy to them. And that's what you're doing. Not only that, you're doing what you needed. You're giving people the opportunity through your centers. Right. And you're giving them hope. Right. And you're giving them giving them ability to remove that fear through Jesus Christ. You're sharing your truth. And God is doing restoration. If someone wants to get in touch with you, can you just look in the camera and just let them know the bed that your camera is right here. Let them know how they can reach you.
It's very simple. Just simply www.dedicatedtreatment.com. The word dedicated. Dedicatedtreatment.com. Dedicado stands for dedicated to. So I knew when I got in this, the purpose had to be intentional. So if anybody needs not only help with addiction, but mental health, I'm a doctor of clinical psychology, and I have doctors and therapists that work for me, and our job is to empower, to lift, and to help you.
We're going to have to definitely do a lot of things together. I'm going to introduce you to Chaplain Ivanka too. She's coming later on today, and so I'd love for you guys to connect so we can start spreading the word and watching you do what God called you to do.
Better believe
so
it. Thank you.
You have heard it here. You guys give it up real quickly for Dr. Keith Marshall.
Thank you, guys.
He's a living testimony of encouragement, hope, and the power of Jesus Christ that can set free, heal you, and deliver you all in one day. Now, we're bringing that to you now, so remember to share this video. It's so important that this show is offering you something to give to someone that you know. Everybody knows someone. Everybody has that one family member, and they need hope, they need inspiration, and that's what we're offering here. I'm Prophetess TNT Taryn Nicole Tarver. We're throwing out this Lifeline with Supernatural Lifeline Revelations, and remember to share because your timeline can be somebody else's lifeline. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.